This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thank you so much for joining us. It is Monday, March 29th, 2021. I'm Ephraim Graham. We begin this half hour with the wicked weather pounding the South. Historic rains putting Nashville underwater. More than a dozen tornadoes reported. Now the victims are left to begin picking up the pieces. Adil Hurd is on the story.
Severe weather ripped through the South over the weekend from Texas to the mid-Atlantic, leaving a trail of damage in its wake. Torrential rains across Tennessee flooded homes and churches and left roads impassable. Nashville's mayor declared an emergency Sunday night after more than 7 inches of rain fell on the city, the second highest two-day total in recorded history. The Nashville Fire Department had to rescue more than 130 people from cars, apartments, and houses. At least 4 people died.
It took 600 of our fire personnel to respond to these events, along with our emergency response units and water rescue.
Homes were filled with water.
It looks like someone came in and ransacked.
The storms devastated other parts of the South, with 16 tornadoes in a 24-hour period. In Shelby County, Alabama, Dave Grubik saw his home of 20 years reduced to a pile of rubble.
We were able to salvage quite a bit of memories. Scrapbooks, baby books, pictures on the wall of the grandkids. I'm going to tell you what even touched me more, the people that are helping. I don't even know who they are.
And in East Texas, these aerials show some of the aftermath. Buildings heavily damaged, including this church. Trees snapped in two and debris everywhere.
And I got right in the hallway and it hit. I heard glass and my roof, I heard that aluminum coming off. And I kept praying, Lord, Lord, Lord. And where I was standing, nothing was touched.
Alabama residents are still cleaning up after twisters devastated homes and killed at least 5 people late last week. Operation Blessing stepped in to distribute pallets of water and Home Depot disaster kits through a local church. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
From there, we turn to Republican leaders who are turning to social media to show the situation at the southern border with images they believe confirm it is a crisis and humanitarian nightmare. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas posted this video from one of the pods housing thousands of illegal immigrants, trying to show just how bad it is.
Please give dignity to the people. Please give dignity to the people.
So you work for the commissioner, your senior advisor. You were hired 2 weeks ago, and you're instructed to ask us to not have any pictures taken here.
Please respect the people,
because the political
rules.
Leadership at DHS does not want the American people to know it.
Please respect the rules, sir.
In another video, Senator Lindsey Graham walked the path many of those illegally entering the country take. Here's what he had to say.
There's a loophole in our law that incentivizes people to bring 6-year-old children with them because the Biden administration has changed the law so if you got a 6-year-old, you can't be deported. They're all processed, put on a bus, and 8 hours after being apprehended, they're released in the United States. And it's a humanitarian tragedy, but it's literally insane policy. We've got a trail here where the U.S. government is marking it for illegal immigrants. And I don't blame the Border Patrol agents, I blame the federal government for creating this mess.
As Senator Graham mentioned, the number of unaccompanied children at the border is surging in part because of that loophole. The latest estimates from the immigration officials report at least 14,000 children. One government agency in California is asking foster parents how many migrant children they can house, including an option for more than 26 children. The Daily Mail first published news of the development of foster parents receiving this recorded call. This is an emergency message. Please respond to this urgent message from the Community Care Licensing Division. CCLD would like to know how many available beds you have to serve additional youth. Egyptian officials announced today the massive container ship blocking the Suez Canal has been partially refloated. As Chris Mitchell now reports from Israel, the ship has caused huge disruptions in the global economy after blocking the strategic waterway for a week.
10 tugboats pushing and pulling the run-aground ship, along with help from the high tide, managed to partially free the vessel. But there's no word on when it will be completely freed. 7 days ago, the skyscraper-sized Ever Given got stuck in the crucial waterway. something that's never happened in the 150-year history of the Suez Canal, one of the most strategic waterways in the world.
Like the Panama Canal is, it carries about 12% of world trade each year. That's roughly in monetary terms about $1.1 trillion worth of cargo passed through the Suez Canal, about 3 billion every day. About 18,000 ships use it a year, it's about 50 ships a day, so it's absolutely key. So you get something like this, a ship effectively blocking it, you actually really are blocking that trade flow.
The massive traffic jam holding up nearly 400 ships, which contain everything from furniture to coffee to car parts. The delay is costing companies billions of dollars, a cost they'll likely pass on to the consumer.
The fact that now we're seeing a backlog could have ripple effects here in the U.S.
It's also affecting the flow of the world's crude oil. Nearly 10% is transported through the canal, and that backlog could affect the cost of gas at U.S. pumps.
At some point this summer, we could see a national average of $3 a gallon.
The impact is being felt in Europe since the ship blocked the crucial east-west waterway connecting Europe and Asia. The alternative route takes vessels nearly 2 weeks to sail all the way around Africa.
Container ships, tankers are not delivering food, fuel, manufactured goods to Europe, and goods are not being exported from Europe to the Far East. And this is going to have a massive impact on production, on availability of goods in Europe and in Asia.
One expert compared what will happen next to taking a cork out of a bottle. Once it's open, vessels will be arriving at global ports at the same time and will have to wait in line once again. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Opening statements in the trial of Derek Chauvin begin today. Chauvin is charged with second and third degree murder and second-degree manslaughter in the death of George Floyd. The jurors, including alternates, is made up of 9 women and 5 men, all of different ethnic backgrounds. The trial is expected to last several weeks. Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson signed the Medical Ethics and Diversity Act. The act protects the right of healthcare professionals, allowing them to refuse to perform medical activities that violate their religious and moral objections. The bill would also safeguard health institutions from any type of discrimination, punishment, or retaliation as a result of any objection. Just a few days ago, Governor Hutchinson also signed a law banning transgender individuals identifying as female from competing in women's sports. I want to turn now to Myanmar. They see it as the deadliest day since the military coup last month. Soldiers and police firing on civilians in dozens of locations Saturday, killing more than 100, including 7 children. Eyewitnesses report security forces seemingly to fire randomly into crowded neighborhoods. This comes as the military celebrated Armed Forces Day, with drone displays lighting up the night sky. A dozen nations, including the U.S., releasing a joint statement condemning the violence. More than 400 people have died in peaceful protests since the military took over. Coming up right here on CBN NewsWatch, how the pandemic with its lockdowns and regulations have created another pandemic just as devastating. Stay with us. We've got that story for you coming up right after this.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
Your news channel, your shows, the stories you care about. Anytime you want, anywhere you want. Download the CBN News app today.
As cities deal with people releasing pent-up frustrations from months-long lockdowns, social service agencies are reporting an increase in domestic violence, with stay-at-home orders and school closures taking a dramatic toll on families. Our Charlene Aaron has a look at what's being called a pandemic within a pandemic.
While COVID cases surged across the nation, the call to stay inside awakened a monster, and the number of domestic violence cases took off. A sad result as measures meant to protect put the vulnerable in harm's way.
We've received about 1,000 more calls into our hotline in 2020 over 2019. So there definitely is a rise in domestic violence. People are home from work. Abusers are often home from work now in the quarantine. Money's a little bit tighter. That often leads to some domestic violence issues. So all of those things have added to sometimes already precarious situations that women are in.
Red flags went up almost from the pandemic's beginning. Then police departments nationwide reported on the numbers of domestic violence cases. An 18% spike in San Antonio, 22% in Portland, Oregon, and a 10% increase in New York City. Deborah Epperson of the Help and Emergency Response Shelter in Portsmouth, Virginia, says COVID restrictions have prevented victims from getting necessary help.
They have been secluded from their family and their friends. They can't, often an abuser will keep them from making those phone calls. They can't visit, so they can't seek any help.
Tika Washington of Spokane knows the situation all too well. She endured years of physical and emotional abuse at the hands of her now ex-husband.
I can remember when I first left him, I came back several times because I was homeless with my kids outside sleeping at bus stops. He choked me until I almost died. My son had to pull him by his hair off of me.
The mother of 2 once had a gun placed in her mouth, experienced a broken eardrum, and spent 2 months in the hospital while pregnant with her second child. She says childhood abuse left her vulnerable and unable to break free.
Leaving that situation and not having a father there, having that family feeling, you're going to go back to what you know.
Epperson calls it a common problem.
It's the hardest step to leave, but it is nothing that you will ever regret leaving and starting fresh, especially if you have children in your family.
After desperate prayer, Washington began her journey to freedom 3 years ago.
I literally remember sitting on the bed crying I was like, Jesus, please, help me. And I've never ever done that until that point. I was like, please, God, take me out of the situation.
A week later came an offer for housing through a Christian residential program. Since relocating, she is involved in a local church where she and her 2 children have found fellowship, hope, and healing.
That whole church has loved on me and my children and helped us, and God every day carries me. And when I sit back now and look at my life, I still have a long way to go, but I can imagine where I was 4 years ago. Every time I need something, every need is met. I really just wish people would understand how much Jesus loves us. Jesus is never changing. He's always there.
Her message to those trapped in abusive relationships?
That fear that you're holding onto, Jesus is the only answer to give you that peace. Just take the jump and just to leave.
If you or someone you know needs help, call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-999-3600. 888-799-SAFE. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
Charlene, thank you. I want to turn now to the Pentagon, where people inside and outside worry extremism is on the rise within the military. The concern is so real, lawmakers held a hearing about it on Capitol Hill. CBN's Paul Strand listened in.
During this House Armed Services hearing, a representative of the Southern Poverty Law Center rang some alarm bells about extremism in the military.
We have the report or survey results from the Military Times last year that reported over 50% of service members of color say that they witness racist or white supremacist behavior within the ranks.
Racism continues to occur within the ranks, and we must work to root out this bigotry and deal with that problem in a comprehensive manner.
It was pointed out some 20% of those arrested for the January 6th takeover of the Capitol building were present or former military members. And the SPLC's Brooks added,
over the last several years, SPLC researchers and journalists have identified dozens of former and active military personnel among the membership of some of the country's most dangerous and violent white supremacist groups.
But First Liberty Institute's Michael Berry warned the military could be in danger of lumping in good people of faith with radical extremists.
I'm pulling directly from Department of Defense publications here, labeling evangelical Christians and Catholics in the same category that they categorize Hamas, Al-Qaeda, and the Ku Klux Klan.
Berry told CBN News it's suspected a teeny tiny fraction of troops are dangerous radicals, and purges can easily get out of hand.
While it's important to remove true extremists from our military, we have to be very cautious not to infringe upon the constitutional rights of the other 99.9%.
We lack any concrete evidence that violent extremism is as rife in the military as some commentators claim. Since the start of FY20, 9 soldiers have been separated from the Army for misconduct where extremism was a factor. 9 out of nearly 1 million.
Chairman Smith said that was one of the main reasons to have this hearing, to find out if there really is a problem, and if so, just how big it is. Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Still ahead, the incredible story of a group of female warriors who even make ISIS fighters feel fear. The story's next. Stay with us.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
A fierce sniper brandishing an AK-47 had the men of ISIS quaking in their boots. Azima was determined to stop ISIS at all costs. And guess what? Azima is a woman, a member of the all-female Kurdish militia. CBN's Wendy Griffith shows us these female fighters known as the Daughters of Kobani. They became ISIS's worst nightmare.
In 2014, the Islamic State had swept across much of Syria, overtaking cities and spreading terror as civil war raged all around it. As ISIS approached a town called Kobani, a group of Kurdish female fighters armed with AK-47s and a lot of courage were determined not to let ISIS take their town, their homes, or their families. Although they had braided hair and painted fingernails, when it came to fighting ISIS, they were as fierce as any male army.
They weren't just fighting ISIS, but they were leading in battle, leading men and women in the fight against the extremists of the Islamic State.
In her book, The Daughters of Kobani, author Gail Samak Lamon introduces us to these women, including Azima, a sniper determined to stop ISIS at all costs.
Even when so many people had lost faith that Kobani would not fall, she would absolutely tell everybody, including her fighters and including her sister, who sometimes called while she was in the middle of battle, literally taking fire from the Islamic State. She would say, "We will not lose Kobani. We will fight until the end and we'll win."
Was ISIS afraid of these female fighters?
Yes, you asked me about Azima. Azima had a great story about how, at the beginning, she would hear on the walkie-talkies the men from ISIS say, try to pick off the women, try to kill the women first. And then at the end, when they saw what good snipers they were, they would be on the radio saying, "Hey, don't get too close to those women snipers. They're very good." And they took that as a huge compliment. And there was also the fact that their men of the Islamic State felt they couldn't go to paradise if they were killed by a woman. And they would get on the radio and really say terrible things to these women, who then used it as motivation to power them in their fight against ISIS.
Lamont's research into the Women's Protection Forces took her to the front lines, where she also spent time with Christian female fighters.
And, one young woman from a Christian family told me that her mother at first did not approve of her joining the all-women's force. And then, ISIS by then had kidnapped Christians in the Hawar Valley. And when her parents would go to church, people would come up to them and say, "We're so proud of what your daughter is doing." And I really hope that the Daughters of Kobani does justice to the courage, bravery, the power of these young women.
The battle for Kobani was considered a turning point in the war against the Islamic State. How big a role did this female militia play in freeing Kobani from the grip of ISIS?
Women were front and center in the fight to stop the Islamic State. And in Kobani, this was their first battlefield defeat. And women played a central role in handing it to them.
Lamont says their battle skills earned the respect of U.S. Special Forces fighting alongside them.
And there's a story of one man who said, when I saw how many young women, ponytails and AK-47s going off to fight ISIS, I thought, wow, this is definitely a first for me. They are real and true warriors.
For many of these women, this was not just about defeating ISIS, although that was their major focus, but giving women more equality in the Middle East. Do you think they achieved that goal?
There is no question that the next generation of girls born will see women protecting them in that part of Syria and in that part of the region. And there's a story that's in the book when they finally clear the town of Manbij of the Islamic State. A woman comes out and sort of puts her hands on the faces of the young women and said, "We didn't even know you were real. We heard about you, but we didn't know you were real." And I think that's the power of seeing what women can be.
About Azima, she was injured not once, but twice. Pretty badly the second time. Whatever happened to her?
One of the most beautiful moments of reporting this was when she was telling me about this moment when she's injured the second time by the Islamic State. And you want to talk about force of will. She's sitting there and she says, "I will not die because that will be a gift to them. Wow. I will be here to see my people through to victory." And so she's on the radio with her fighters saying, "Listen, show the men who bought and sold women what we are capable of, and know that even if we fight and die, we will have died for something that matters."
Wendy Griffith, CBN News.
Coming up as we look ahead to Good Friday, a global service you may want to be a part of for your Easter celebration. Stay with us.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
Administering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to CBNNewsChannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Well, Good Friday is just days away, and CBN is excited to let you know about a special service we'll be sharing on the CBN News Channel. It's Good Friday Worldwide Broadcast. The Ministry Pulse created the service last year in response to churches not being able to meet in person during the pandemic. It reached some 115 million homes in 120 different countries. Pulse is doing the same, and this year the guests include Francis Chan, Ebony Small, For King and Country, Michael W. Smith, Tasha Cobbs, Carrie Job, and more. Time now for your Monday Motivation, and today I leave you with this message. This is a great day to expect great things. Remember this: impossible with man is possible with God. There is no problem too great and no issue too small for him to step in and change. With that word, I encourage you to make this a marvelous Monday, and be sure to have yourself a wonderful week and do it on purpose. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Thank you so much for watching. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them on CBNNews.com. We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us. The address is right there at the bottom of your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We'd love to hear from you. See you right back here same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.